All right, we're live. Oleksandr, how are you, mate? It's great to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you again, my friend.
I've been excited to catch up with you, and I've been excited to bring you to my audience and share a little bit about you and what's going on there in Ukraine and seeing exactly what life is really like. So you're here on my new channel called The Unspoken Truth, but we're live across about 6 different platforms, and there's a whole lot of content that's going out there, and we like to get behind the narrative and get behind the story and find out what's actually going on. So I'm so excited that you're here today and you've carved out a little bit of your time to share with me and my audience as well. So for the people that don't know, we worked together, it was a little while ago, it's a couple of years ago now. It feels like a lifetime ago. Anything that's pre-COVID
exactly.
feels like 20 years ago. It's crazy.
Exactly.
So we've known each other for a little while. You've been quite the hustler over there in the Ukraine, because that's kind of how you have to be in that part of the world. It just is what it is. And I'm looking forward to sharing your story a little bit more with the audience. So you're no longer in Kharkiv. Whereabouts are you now?
I am now in the western Ukraine, in Zakarpattia region of Ukraine, with my friends, staying for a couple of weeks and then returning back to Kharkiv. But really, as we discussed before the stream, interesting events happened over there on the north. So it was quite a surprise yesterday.
Why don't we kick off the show and talk about that? Because
Yeah.
apparently Russians are invading Russia in the southern part of Russia. Can you bring everybody up to speed what's going on over the border there in Belgrade?
I think this, to some extent, it's true. Russians are attacking Russians, but as of me, it's part of the invasive, predicted invasive or counter-invasive for Ukraine. Um, I think it's part just to divert their attention from the front line, to make them bring some troops there. Uh, that's kind of that's a good move, and plus to destabilize the situation inside Russia, uh, for them to forget shelling Kharkiv finally.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's still under shelling. I receive every day from the Telegram chats. Every day receive messages that Kharkiv is under shelling. Since we've talked, it was Kharkiv operation, counter-offensive operation. Then we kicked them out of Kharkiv, for a large number of kilometers, 100 plus. So it it made it much easier for Kharkiv, but the border is 40 kilometers from the city.
Yeah,
Still
it's very
there,
close still. Yeah.
yeah, still they are able to shell C-300 mostly. But
hmm
people are managing to survive in these conditions.
Well, tell me, what do you think about the Russians attacking themselves in their own country there? I think that's all a little bit of propaganda and a bit of media, because when the Russians on their side of the border are looking through their binoculars, they're seeing American Humvees come across the border, and that kind of begs the question, like, what's really going on here? I think you're quite right when you say it's a bit of a bait and switch. Look over here, and something
Yeah, yeah.
over there is going to happen. So I think you're quite right there, but what are you hearing? Is that propaganda? You know, I looked at my Twitter before I came here, because we kind of had to bump this an hour, and I was looking at my Twitter before, and I was watching a whole lot of Russian media in there saying that, oh no, they came across the border, 60 of them were killed, and it was this, and then I'm looking at the other side in Telegram going, da 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 da, and I'm like, it's like a game of tennis, man, like whack, someone hits it back across the
Yeah, exactly.
and I'm sitting in there in the crowd going, what's true? What's not true? All I can see a few videos and helicopters flying around and a couple of Russians that have been killed, but really not much more than that. So I don't know. What's a belief?
I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, as usual.
Yeah.
Uh, some of Russian sources are saying truth, some truth as Ukrainian channels or this volunteer corps, Russian volunteer corps. They are also outspoken quite a lot in this operation. So I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Russian sources, Ukrainian sources, and these volunteer groups. Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think you're right there as well. You know what? Tell me what tell me what you think of this. I couldn't help but laugh. You know, these Russian on Twitter. You know, they're going crazy on Twitter. Ah, what are they doing? What's going on? We're peaceful country. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. It's as if they're not doing anything wrong. And then I'm just like looking at my Twitter feed, thinking, what did you think was going to happen? You can't just drive across the border of any country, it doesn't matter what country it is, and start killing the people on the other side of the border and think that they're not going to retaliate. Like, they're all, oh my God, what are they doing? They're invading, they're doing... And I'm like, really? Are you serious? Like, it's very strange what's going on there.
Yeah, to us, to normal people, it's strange. It's kind of not understandable. But for them, it's a norm of life. They are brainwashed to the extent normal person cannot understand what's going on there.
What do you think? They're just brainwashed by their media? Is that what you mean? Like they think everything's okay and there's nothing wrong?
By the media. They actually started brainwashing them, I guess, back in 2003 or 4, something like this. Especially after Orange Revolution in 2004, they started methodically, day by day, brainwashing Russians towards hatred of Ukrainians. So
I remember when this kicked off over a year ago now, I posted something on my Facebook, and I'm not very active on Facebook anymore. I just don't use that platform very much. And I posted something along the lines of, who would have thought that another country would invade another country in this day and age? Like it was a very kind of neutral comment. It wasn't on one side or the other. I'm not some Russia bro or some Ukrainian bro. It was very neutral. And over the years, I've used a lot of Russian freelancers in my IT business, and they're actually really good developers. And so a lot of them were on my Facebook as well. And the minute that I wrote this one little comment in there, they piled onto me. They're like, ah, like this. Don't you know that this is what happened here and this is what was going on in the Donbass and Ukrainians have been killing Russians for this? And I'm like, bro, you're invading another country. You're occupying another country. You seem to like, your border is not there. You know, there's been a war there since 2014. And I remember thinking just how they went, you know, I'm watching this from 1,000 miles away, right on the other side of planet Earth, and I'm kind of pretty even keeled about it, just watching it unfold, seeing it all happen, and wondering where it's all going. And they went from 0 to like plus 500 in like one Facebook comment. It's like, whoa, what happened there? But pretty soon, just literally within a couple of days, they were all gone. All of those people were gone, and I'm like, where did they go? And I think they banned Facebook in that part of the world, or you couldn't access it, or they weren't. You know, they're waving a stick, don't go on there talking about it or something like that.
Yes, they continue brainwashing that all these social media, Facebook, Instagram, they are all, they actually by law proclaimed, at least Instagram, I remember, maybe Facebook as well, as enemy media, something like this.
And anything the government can't control is enemy. We had that, believe it or not, man, that's actually pretty funny, you know, and poignant. It happened here in Australia. So during COVID, it came out that the Australian government got together with Facebook, Instagram, and a couple of other social media platforms, and they were told to delete a series of posts about COVID. So if people were spreading misinformation, the government was in there going, get that down, get rid of that. And I'm thinking, you know, the Australian government's no different to the Russian government or the Chinese Communist Party or the FBI in America. Yeah, they're all the same. They're all dickheads. What do you do?
History continues itself.
Yeah, yeah, and it continues to repeat itself like that.
Yeah.
So tell me, you're in the western part of Ukraine. Are you there for a break? Are you visiting family? What's happening?
No, just for a break with my friends.
Are you having a holiday in the middle of a war? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, why not?
You know, every time I speak to you and communicate with you, I'm always surprised at how relaxed about everything you are and how everything is tracking okay for you as well. And I'm so glad that you're doing okay. And I'm so glad that you're able to get a little bit of downtime and some respite as well. It's well deserved, mate. And have you done anything fun? Do you go and it's starting to be a bit cooler up there, or the weather's starting to be a bit warmer? I mean, so is it you can get out a bit?
Yeah, weather started getting warmer here, and we were for 2 days hiking in the mountains with my friend.
Nice.
It was real fun.
You have to post some pictures for me so I can share them around.
Yeah, sure, I can.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. All right, let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about what's happened in Kharkiv back at home, because that's where you're from. You said that you were being shelled continuously. They're firing missiles at you or artillery at you. What's happening in your part of the world there?
The artillery, they stopped using artillery even before counteroffensive. Back in September, like in late August or mid-August, they stopped shelling artillery. But then they continue with this C-300 rockets, and they continue pretty frequently, at least 2-3 times per week. We hear explosions.
Are they damaging infrastructure, or are they aiming at something, or is it just firing randomly at the city?
Sometimes it's again, it's very difficult to understand what they are aiming at. Really, it's not possible to realize they hit it. For instance, like couple of months ago, if you remember, one of the universities were hit, like architecture university or design something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And was that was the university destroyed when it was hit, or was it just the buildings that were?
Part of the university was destroyed, and it's like 200 or 300 meters from it. How you call it?
In English, at home or at work?
Oh my God! I started to forget in English.
That's okay. So, it's a couple hundred meters from your home, or from where you work?
No, from the place where they recruit, from recruitment centers. So
recruitment centers. Yeah, that's okay. I don't speak any Ukrainian. I can't translate any of it, so it's fine.
Yeah, like 300 meters from the recruitment center. And
is that what they're aiming at? Maybe. Maybe, who knows?
Maybe, who knows? They missed the recruitment center, or they specifically targeted the university.
Yeah, hard to say.
The same with the infrastructure. The rocket can hit some residential building, like and 500 meters, there is some infrastructure object.
Yeah.
And you never know. Either they missed or they targeted residential building. You never know.
So you guys are there in Kharkiv. You're really close to the border, right? And they're aiming at you randomly. You mustn't have very much warning for an air raid siren when something goes off, or does it even go off?
Usually, siren goes on after the explosion.
Yeah, because by the time they detect it and someone goes, "Oh, you turn the siren on," the missile's hit.
Yeah. missile
Yeah.
hits, and then the siren goes. So
Yeah.
it's like
And
this.
so when you hear the siren going, you've heard the explosion. Because is it a big place where you are? Is it like a big suburban area, big city, or is it rather small?
Yeah, it's quite a big. This area of the city, it's like 500,000 people.
It's huge.
Huge one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
huge city. Yeah, yeah. So, and so when they're firing at you, are you hearing these explosions, then hearing the actual air raid sirens and going, no, I don't have to go anywhere. It's fine.
No, it's actually the area of the city where I'm living at.
Yep.
But the whole city is 1.5 million.
Oh, it's really big.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a big place like that, the chances of you being in the crossfire of something like that are less,
Yeah.
which is kind of a good thing for you, I suppose. But it's bad that they're just targeting you randomly like that. I had a slip of the finger there as I was just listening to you there. I got some footage here that I want to play for you that came out today of Bakhmut. Yeah, so just down the road from where you are. So have you seen this?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so this was drone footage that came out earlier today. So, the Russians went in there in their special military operation and they were really careful to not destroy any civilian infrastructure. But just the scale and the magnitude of what they've done to that place is just catastrophic. And when you look closely at it, and I watched it a little bit because I fly drones a lot, right? So I was just watching what they're doing. I just paused the video there, and when you look, you can see every building in the foreground of the footage there, you can see has been destroyed or on fire. So each one of those buildings is completely destroyed. So right at the bottom of the screen, and the bottom right of the screen, there's a building that's been completely demolished as well. It's maybe a 10-story high-rise apartment building completely collapsed to the ground. And then when you look at the craters that are in the ground from the artillery and the mortars and all of the firing there, it looks like a moonscape. And look, there's nothing here in the middle of these buildings that they could possibly be targeting. And, they're just firing their artillery randomly in there. So it's an absolute tragedy when you look at it like this. And it's very hard to take in the scale of what's going on there. I can't imagine it. None of us in our generation have seen anything like this before. And this is like some World War I, World War II type destruction that we're looking and witnessing here. It's just unbelievable. How do you feel when you see that, when I show you some footage like that? Because that's not far from where you live.
It's not that far. Of course, sadness. First of all, it's our country, it's our land, our people losing their residence, losing their life, basically. But actually, that's the only way they are fighting. The only way, shelling artillery to the ground, to the extent what they see, and then go with the fresh meat, as we call it.
Yeah. I've been watching
meat attacks.
Yeah,
This is the only way they can fight.
I saw some footage of some Ukrainian soldiers in some trenches in and around Bakhmut, and he came off the line, and the journalist said to him, how was your day? How is everything? And he just kind of like rolled his eyes and goes, "Oh, another zombie attack." You just wouldn't believe it. And the journalist said, "Well, what do you mean zombie attack?" And he said they firing artillery at their trenches to get their heads down, the Ukrainians' heads down, and then the Russians come up out of the trenches, and then they walk across the open field while they're behind the artillery barrage. And when they get up close to where the Ukrainian positions are, the artillery stops, and then that's when they start firing. But as soon as the artillery stops, the Ukrainians would stand up from their trench and just mow them all down with machine guns. And this guy was recounting that story and talking about, that they would come 20 or 30 at a time, and they'd do that 3 or 4 times a day. And they're just, human wave attacks like that was happening in
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
happening in the Korean War. If you ever read the history of the Korean War, the Chinese did that,
Hmm.
and they would blow the trumpet at nighttime, and the human waves would go and try and assault the American and Allied positions, but the people that were in the rear, in the Chinese side, they had no weapons. So all the people in the front of these assaults had weapons, and then the people in the rear they had to go forward and pick up a dead guy's weapon to go and fight with, but then they all got
Yeah.
cut down as well. And when you read about those stories, you read them in books or you hear them on audiobooks or you hear somebody's story of that on YouTube, you're just like, man, I just can't imagine I can't imagine that would ever actually happen. But it's happening like now. It's happening today in your
Happening
country. It's
now.
just, it's
Yeah,
insane, man.
yeah, it's absolutely insane, but it's happening. Absolutely not understandable. They're, it seems like they are not learning at all from any kind of war, any kind of conflict. Just doing the same thing again and again and again.
What do you think it is that, and I know you can't get in the mind of somebody else's thinking or their way of thinking, but you're living through this. But what do you think it is that the Russians do when they don't value human life? It doesn't matter if they're a conscript or a prisoner or they're a regular soldier on a contract or somebody who's volunteered. It's as if, from my standpoint, from my vantage point in my ivory tower, 5,000 miles away on the other side of the planet, I look at it and I think it's like they don't value human life, but I can't understand for the life of me why. I was a soldier myself. I was in the military for 10 years, and I understand like the most important resource any military has is not their guns and their missiles and their planes and tanks, it's the people. Because without the people, you can't actually do anything. And I'm just
Yeah.
scratching my head thinking, what is it are Russian people really that different? I've known a lot of Russian people over the years, and they don't seem very different to me. Sure, they speak a different language, but really they have Christian values and they seem like good, solid family people. They seem just normal. But now we see them in a conflict like this, and they're completely different to us. They're nothing like us.
Yeah, absolutely. The mentality is absolutely different. Even Russians from Ukrainians, uh, we are absolutely different. Uh, we value absolutely different things. We value life. They value something else. I don't know. It's really hard to even to realize why it's happening. But it's happening. I'm strong believer that then if you think for uh, about some subject, and if you don't understand, just accept it as it is.
Mm.
I started analyzing, maybe to understand why they are this way or the other, and then at some point I realized that it's nonsense. It's not possible to realize these people. Just accept it. They are like this. That's it.
Yeah, you can't. You'll send yourself crazy trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
You know what I have seen, and you would have seen this as well. There's a lot of really great interviews with Russian prisoners. And at first, when I saw this, like last year when this was happening, I was watching it thinking, nah, it's just propaganda. Those guys are made to say whatever, and they'll say whatever they have to say to get, their lunch or a jacket because it's cold or whatever, right? And, historically throughout history, whenever prisoners have been captured and paraded on television,
Mm.
our experience of that has been in the Gulf War, in the first Gulf War in 1991, and then you cast your mind back to the Vietnam War and then the Korean War. It's been few and far between where we've ever really seen anything like that. But over a period of time, meaning over the last year, there's literally been hundreds of interviews of Russian prisoners, and they all say the same thing. And the same thing is, oh, we thought we were coming here to do this, and then instead we got that. And they all seem really confused about what it is that they were trying to do, and what was it that they were fighting for? Were they attempting to fight for something? And it's just really strange. What are your thoughts about some of those interviews that you see with those captured guys? What do you think about it?
The very first interviews, I guess, they were completely lies. Them telling that we were for training or whatever, we didn't know where we are going. Of course, all this was lies, at least to say.
I saw a lot of those interviews, and I had to say that it didn't seem like they were lying. And I kind of tried to put myself in their position in the Australian Army version of it, and I could see how you'd get there. Get your gear, get on the truck, shut your mouth, let's go. And they're like, well, where are we going? We've got live ammunition. Where are we going, on an exercise or on a live fire thing? I could see how that would actually happen. Maybe with one platoon. But when you look out the side of the truck and there's like 500 other people, or there's 1,000, there's a whole battalion of soldiers going there, a whole mechanized brigade going somewhere, you're like, something else is going on here. Come on.
Yeah, but actually here comes 15 plus years of propaganda.
Yes.
They absolutely devastated all, not even analytical, all thinking at all. So they are not analyzing, as you say, you're going somewhere with live ammunitions and you see such and such amount of people behind you.
What do you think we might be doing today?
Yeah.
I don't know, invading another country?
Yeah.
Which one? Lithuania? Poland?
They're thinking in different terms. We were told we are going for the exercise. Full stop. Don't ask.
Yeah, literally, that's all they were given. Yeah.
They go.
I saw there was an interview with a shot down pilot. He was an Su-35 pilot, and the interviewer was like, he was angry, man. He was like pissed off at this guy. He's like, you're coming over here firing missiles and dropping bombs. Who do you think you are, like this? And he's this overweight. You know, here in the Western countries, fighter pilots are the absolute pinnacles of human beings. They look like Tom Cruise, right? Tom Cruise embodies everything it is to be Maverick, Top Gun. And I've known lots of fighter pilots over the years and worked with a series of them, and they actually are like that. That's what they're like. And the women versions of them are even more so. Like, I don't know, maybe they got something else to prove, but they are just the pinnacle of human beings. And this Russian guy, he was an Su-35 pilot. He'd been shot down. He was probably 30 kilos overweight. He looked like he was in his mid-50s. He looked like he'd been flying planes his whole life. And, you know, they're like, what were you doing? And he goes, I was just firing anti-radiation missiles, you know, like I wasn't targeting anyone. I was targeting your radars, you know, like it's not a big deal. Like, it's like, and he was just like so unbelievably, it seemed as though he was just stupid. And and you can put on the act where I'm going to give you my name, my rank, and my serial number for so long, but eventually when you're sitting with the interrogator, at some point you have to give them something. And they all have a cover story, right? They have a cover story of saying, you know, I was in a medical party, or I was doing this, or I wasn't shooting at anybody. And this guy's like, I was just shooting the radars, man. You know, like I wasn't doing anything like that. And he's trying to minimize the fact that, you know, if you're going to shoot at a radar and take the radar out with your anti-radiation missile, now we can't shoot our missiles back at you, and you've got free reign to drop bombs and kill as many people as you want. And he's like minimizing the fact that it's not a big deal, but it was a big deal. And this interrogator journalist guy, he wasn't having any of it. And it really showed how poor their training actually is. So in Western militaries, all fighter pilots go through resistance to interrogation. They go through if they have to eject, or they have to do an escape and evasion and they get captured. In the Australian military, it's called conduct after capture. And they put you through an extensive course that goes for a couple of weeks. They do all sorts of things to you. Everything from, you know, laughing at the size of your genitals when it's really cold, to putting a German Shepherd near you, to locking you in a cage in the middle of in the jungle, and, you know, with the bugs and the sun. It's a really like realistic training. And you could see from this guy's behavior that he'd had no training at all in relation to that. And he's kind of just bumbling his way through all of this. And it's like, really? I thought these guys were like number 2 in the world. I was like led to believe my whole life that the Russians were the enemy and they were scary and they were this. And in the end, you know, we've been found out that they're just people and they're actually pretty stupid as well in the process.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's consequences, I believe, of this aggressive propaganda. It makes people stupid, really. It's
I love it because you can dumb it all the way down to that, right? Because that's actually what it is.
yeah. If you are told every day that you don't have your own opinion, you shall follow what you are told to do, and for 15 years, after 15 years, you believe in it.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, you have
So that's
no choice.
basically what happened to
Yeah.
them.
Let's change topics here a little bit. I'm going to ask you something a bit controversial. Where's your boss? Where's Mr. Valery, the boss of the military? He's nowhere to be seen. Has he been killed by a cruise missile? Was he attacked? What's happening? Why is the guy behind closed doors not going to the meetings in Ramstein where we're getting all the weapons from? What's happening?
He is alive.
You think?
Don't worry, he is alive. I guess he. That's my personal humble opinion. Is that he's now preparing the main counteroffensive, and just not to be seen on public, not to be discussed a lot. So it's kind of part of preparation to counteroffensive.
You know, I spend all day long looking at the news and picking out stories to talk about, to make content about, and doing these sorts of interviews and podcasts and whatnot. And you would just laugh your ass off if you saw some of the things that I saw about that. You know, there's a story in mainstream media that Zelensky gave his position to the Russians, and they fired a cruise missile at him when they were getting ready for the counteroffensive, and he's in hospital. His wife had been seen at the hospital and all these things going on. And I'm like, who's writing this story? The same people that were like chasing Princess Diana in the 1980s or something like that. It's just this crazy, I don't know if it's this war or this people just want clicks so badly, but they'll say and do anything that they possibly can to get somebody to look at their story or to watch their video or something like that. And I just scratching my head thinking, you know what, even if the guy did get clipped and he was taken off the battlefield from a missile, or he fell down and broke his leg just because he slipped over in the mud or something like that, which happened, you know, if the guy was no longer able to be in charge, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to have a succession plan. The guy, the rank below him, is just going to take over and move. It's the freaking military. It doesn't matter if the commander is killed. Somebody else will step up.
Chief of staff will be
exactly. Exactly. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you think that's all propaganda? You don't believe it?
The operation.
You don't believe the propaganda? He's actually dead, or he's on holidays in Crete at a wedding, swimming in a pool? No, that's all bullshit.
So sorry, which what
there was a photo of him swimming in a pool in Greece. Did you see that? He was at a wedding and he was on a holiday and he's swimming in a pool. And I'm like, man, the commander of the Ukrainian military is not on holidays.
Yeah, of course, it's not possible. First of all, and in nowadays you can make any video of your choice.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, you can make a deep fake video of something like that really quickly, mate. Let's shift gears here. I just want to get your what's your feeling? What's happening, man? Do you think this is going to be over soon? Do you think, because as the outsider here looking in, and I'm kind of analysing it from a hardware perspective, from an equipment and a capabilities perspective, because that's what I've been doing my whole life, right, in the military. And I look at it and I think it might be the last throw of the dice here with the counteroffensive. And, you know, if the Russians are able to absorb all of that, then it might be a really big problem for you guys, where you're not going to be able to get any further. And I was really quite worried that this is the last roll of the dice for you. But then in the last couple of days, everybody has come out and said, no, we're going to supply fighter jets and you're going to have them very, very soon. So that also worries me too, because it could be the next level of escalation. Because one thing that nobody's talking about is logistics. You know, it's one thing to get the pilots trained and to get you the aircraft, but it's another thing to be able to support them. And there's no way the Ukrainian military can support those Western aircraft. So they're either going to launch from Poland or Romania. And if they're launching from Poland or Romania, it's fair game, right? The Russians will go, well, you know, you want to play that game, let's play. But the Russians are launching from Belarus. What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. It's equalizer for us, so to say. Um, I think this counteroffensive will end somewhere in the middle of summer, maybe till the end of summer, and the pinnacle will be taking off Crimea back.
Do you think that will happen?
Yeah. I think this will happen. And the second stage would be to retake Donbass. And then, of course, the fighter jets will be much more useful than to take Crimea. For retaining Crimea, we have Storm Shadow now, and others good presence.
Yeah, there's definitely some good capability that's been handed off to you in the last couple of months as well. Small diameter bomb, Storm Shadow, that gives you that capability. It looks like they'll go south from Zaporizhia down to Melitopol, then down to Mariupol, and then cut them in half, and they'll take the bridge out as well. And from what I see in open source intelligence in the last maybe week or so, when you piece together where all of the strikes are, looks like they're hitting command and control and ammunition with Storm Shadow already. And it looks like that's happening. And so what that says to me, they're shaping the battlefield. And as they shape the battlefield, that kind of gets rid of all the things that are going to cause them problems. And I've also seen a lot of footage with huge amounts of FPV drones. So, you know, I was thinking about that. There's a book on my shelf behind me here called The Russian Way of War. And I had that long before this conflict happened. And what it does is it explains Russian doctrine. It explains how they dig in. And so as an infantry guy, I was very familiar with digging in and how we dig positions and why they look the way that they do and how the commander sights the position and stuff like that. That's like basic minor infantry tactics, right? And the way that the Russians do it is very similar. But the way the Russian way of war works, when you look at that doctrine, it's old doctrine from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, right? That's what that book is about. But today they're operating in the same way. And when I kind of flick through that book and read the pages of it, I think, you know what, you can defeat all of that really quickly these days. And you can do that with drones. And I remember just a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking that exact thing. That's how you would beat them. You would beat them with kamikaze FPV drones. And then that same morning, I saw a picture of a guy. He's standing in front of a four-wheel drive, and the camera's like down at an angle, and he kind of like points like this. And there's about 50 drones that fly across the top of his head. And I thought, there you go. There's the swarming attacks that you need. All they'll do is they'll shape that part of the battlefield with artillery and HIMARS and take out all the machine gun positions. And then the individual troops that are in those trenches that they've dug in, they'll hit them with the FPV drones. They'll move up their artillery. They'll move up their armor, move up their infantry fighting vehicles, and then they'll just assault those positions. But there'll be nothing left to assault because all the Russians will be killed in the process. So it's a pretty... It looks like, you know, when you go on the offensive, you're going to lose a lot of people, but it doesn't seem to me like the Ukrainian side or our side is actually willing to allow that to happen. And given the capability that they keep getting with the FPV, and the British have also given them kamikaze drones as well with a 200-kilometer range. So I know exactly what hardware that is, but that hasn't been announced in the media. But that is an incredible capability, which is as powerful as an artillery round. So if you got a 120 millimeter or 155 millimeter round landing on your head from an FPV drone or from a long range drone, that is a formidable capability that will enable them to actually keep moving forward. And the thing that I worry about is that they'll go forward so quickly, they outstrip their supply lines, and then the Russians come in and cut them off. So, I mean, I'm just the armchair wannabe, right? There's plenty of smarter people out there and AI that can figure out all of that stuff for us. But are you thinking that that's where they're going to go, down south through Zaporizhia, down to Melitopol, and then that way to Crimea?
Most probably this way. But I don't know what's happening in the general staff, but
that's the most likely, right?
I think it's one of the scenarios. Eventually, I believe they will have 2 or 3 strikes in different parts of the front line, and nobody will know where is the main strike.
You want to know the craziest one I heard? Mm-hmm. You'll laugh when I say it. The craziest one I heard is everyone thinks it's going to happen in the south, but actually what they're going to do is they're going to move in and take Belgorod. I'm like, come on, man. Who is writing this shit?
Why?
Why? No, why? Okay, you moved in. You moved in. You took the ground. Now what? It's like, well, they're going to go in and take Belgorod, and they're going to take that whole city, and then they're going to say, we'll give you that back if you give us Crimea back. I'm like, well, who is writing this? Like, have you ever spoken to... I want you to tell your mates that, that's actually what the Western media are writing, man.
Okay. Well, no, of course not. We don't need other territories. We just need to retake our territories back.
There it is, right there. That's all you need, hey? That's all you need.
Yeah. If this strategic move for the Russian volunteer battalions to move into Russia, but come on, it's Russian citizens using Russian tanks, BTRs, etc., coming into the territory of Russia. What's the problem? There are no Ukrainians there. They're all Russian.
I don't know. I hope that's right. I hope that's true. And I don't know what to believe in the fog of war and the commotion and the chaos of it all. All of it's laughable. There's some funny memes. Have you seen the meme of Putin and Shoigu? They're sitting around, and Shoigu and his mate Gerasimov are like, "Hey, boss, there's Russians coming through the southern front there, and they're attacking us on the southern front." Well, who's attacking us? Russia's attacking us. What do you mean? Russia's attacking Russia? Yes, Russia's attacking Russia. What? We're laughing at it, right? We think it's funny, but just so much has happened in this conflict in the last couple of months, and even in the last week, that you forget. Last weekend, the Russian zombies shot down 4 of their own aircraft. They shot down 2 helicopters, an Su-30 and an Su-35. They shot themselves down over Russian airspace. What's going on? When I was in the Navy, Alex, man, I was a missile operator. Yeah, so my job was as a combat systems operator. So primarily on a guided missile frigate on the warship that I was on, your job is anti-air warfare. So the warships that I was on were designed to sit in front of an aircraft carrier, and you act as a picket, is what it's called. So the carrier's in the middle, and there's a couple of pickets out in the front there, and we're kind of leading the force. We're a couple hundred miles ahead, and we're sort of like the missile sponges. If the enemy don't know that the carrier group is there, they'll see us first, and they'll sink us first, and then they'll go after the carrier, right? So we're designed to be ahead and to protect the carrier. And there's just absolutely no way on planet Earth, no way, that you could accidentally shoot yourself down. One time, maybe. I'll give you one only. But 4 in one afternoon, no, I don't believe it. Something else is going on there. Maybe maybe the same people that are across the border yesterday are the same people firing the missiles there, getting in there, shooting all those people going, who knows?
Who knows? Maybe, who knows?
I hope so. That'll be a hell of a story. It's a hell of a story, that's for sure. I like watching it from afar and seeing that. It's kind of cool what's going on there. All right, man. Let's bring this show to a close. I just got a couple more questions for you. How's the humanitarian job doing? Are you still doing the same role? Because you were putting together medical packs and doing all that sort of stuff. Have you got something else going on or same thing?
Yeah, well, I was doing quite a lot of it for like half a year with this organization. Now I'm shifted to the business endeavors. Let's say several lines of business, like tourism here in the Zakarpattia region, the development projects, this success discovery brand. I already almost forgot of.
Yeah, so much happens, huh?
Yeah, so much happens, and it's not that easy to promote in these war times, especially
in the climate.
Ukraine. For the international audience, maybe it would have had sense to promote for international audience. I guess it's better for me first to start with the Ukrainian audience.
Well, that's good. So you're no longer working in Kharkiv where you were before. You're only working for yourself now.
Yeah, I'm returning back in the end of May. Returning back to Kharkiv, and then depending on the situation here, depending on the tasks to be completed here, I will be returning back. So
makes sense.
Like traveling back and forth.
How far is it? How long does it take you to get there?
By train, it's 24 hours. It's almost it's more than 1,000 kilometers.
Oh, it's a long way
from Kharkiv. Yeah.
Long way. Oh, well, that's a long way from the front line, which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is quite good. But
awesome.
We'll see.
And tell me the second last question that I've got for you, and I'll get you out of here on this one, is your family okay? Is everything all right with your family?
Yeah. With the family, everything is okay. They're in Germany.
That's good. You must miss them, man.
Enjoying life.
Yeah, lucky them, huh?
Everything's okay.
Yeah, cool. All right, last one, mate. Have you got anything else you want to share with the audience or anything you want to tell me?
Basically, thanks again for the for all the international community and the Australians included for the assistance, for the help you are providing to Ukraine. It's not only governments or military transferring weapons, etc., but it's also support of the people from different countries. Also very important for Ukraine, because it's not only kind of wishful thinking for us supporting, but also donating to international organizations, humanitarian funds, etc., and it's helping quite a lot to survive for many people here in Ukraine. Not everyone has abilities to make money, to support themselves. And it's very important to have international support here.
Well, that's awesome, man. And thank you for saying that and sharing your gratitude, because I know there's a lot of people that support you. This is a very long, drawn-out process, and people get fatigued of it quickly as well. But we also have to remember that there's humans that are behind that, and there's immense suffering that's happening in this conflict as well. So thank you for sharing your views and keeping us up to date as well. I'm looking forward to doing another one of these again soon. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect, you can do that via LinkedIn, and I'll make sure I'll put the link in the show notes there as well. Have you got any other ways you want to connect?
Link to my LinkedIn.
Is that the best way?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Very good. Thank you very much.
All right, mate. Let's get out of here, but stick with me on the call here, and let's go.